You're not gonna believe the mess my life turned into. I'm Ethan, 32, a branch director at a leading tech company in New York, pulling in $500,000 a year. I've got a sleek luxury apartment in the heart of Manhattan, drive a high-end car, and my career's the kind most folks only dream of. From the outside, it's all glitz and glam, success, wealth, freedom. But scratch the surface, and it's a different story. I'm lonely as hell. No family to toast my victories, no cozy dinners, no warm phone calls from loved ones. I cut them all off 3 years ago, and I'm about to spill why. It's no movie plot. This is my real life, and I'd love to know what you'd do in my shoes. Follow my story and let me hear your thoughts. 3 years ago, on this exact day, April 24th, 2022, I found out my family had betrayed me in a way I never could have imagined. I trusted them, loved them, believed we'd always be a unit, no matter what. But I was so wrong. That day, I made the toughest call of my life, to walk away and make them pay for what they did. It was a Friday, and I just landed in New York at 7 in the evening after 6 months in Canada. My company sent me to lay the groundwork for a new branch, and let me tell you, it was brutal. Countless sleepless nights, stress that wouldn't quit. But I powered through, dreaming of the moment I'd step through my familiar front door, shrug off my heavy suit, pour a glass of red wine, and sink into my favorite couch, finally catching a rare moment of peace after half a year of chaos. I grabbed my suitcase at the airport, hailed a taxi, and settled in, staring out the window as New York City lights flashed by. The city was as bustling as ever, but deep inside, I felt this strange unease, like something wasn't right. 30 minutes later, the taxi turned onto my street, and I froze. My Mustang, my prized car I always parked right in front of my house, was gone. I frowned, squinting to make sure I wasn't mistaken. Maybe my dad or my sister Ava had taken it somewhere, I reasoned. I paid the cab fare, grabbed my suitcase, and headed to the front door. The house lights were on, but a wave of dread settled in my chest. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my keys, and slid one into the lock. It wouldn't turn. I stopped, looked closer, tried again. Nothing. The lock had been changed. A cold chill ran down my spine. Keeping my composure, I knocked firmly. Footsteps shuffled inside, and the door opened. A woman in her 40s, well-dressed, stood there, looking at me with a puzzled expression. "Can I help you?" she asked, calm as could be. I frowned, thrown off. "This is my house. Who are you?" She narrowed her eyes, then let out a small chuckle, like I'd just said something ridiculous. "You must be mistaken. We're the new owners of this house." I stood there, stunned, my mind racing. New owners. This was my house. Same address, same street. I pulled out my phone, opened the map, and double-checked the location. It was impossible to be wrong. My heart pounded harder. "No, I'm not mistaken," I said, my voice steadier this time. "This is my house. I'm the legal owner and never sold it to anyone." She was silent for a moment, then sighed, like she was dealing with someone delusional. "Wait here." She disappeared inside for about 2 minutes. When she returned, she held a stack of documents and handed me a sheet of paper. "This is the deed. I bought this house 5 months ago. The sale was completely legal." I grabbed the document and scanned it. My name was no longer on it. The current owner was listed as her, the transaction finalized. My hands clenched around the paper, my whole body turning cold. I didn't need to think twice to know who'd done this. My parents. They'd sold my house without my consent. Without hesitation, I called a taxi, one thought consuming my mind. I had to confront them immediately. Just yesterday, my parents had called, their voices full of warmth. They asked how work in Canada was going. if I was doing okay, when I'd come home to visit. Not a word about selling my house 5 months ago. My mom's gentle voice still echoed in my ears. Ethan, make sure to take care of yourself. Is work too stressful? Come home when you have time. Now, those words felt utterly fake. They'd betrayed me. 15 minutes later, I stood in front of their house. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm, then rang the doorbell. The door opened and my parents appeared, their eyes widening in surprise when they saw me. Ethan, why didn't you tell us you were coming? My mom asked, her voice full of shock. I didn't answer. I stormed inside, heading straight for the living room. They quickly shut the door and hurried after me, their expressions bewildered. I spun around, my gaze sharp as a knife, my voice cold and cutting. You sold my house. The air in the room grew heavy in an instant. They exchanged glances but didn't deny it right away. Ethan, calm down. My dad finally spoke, his voice lowering, like he was trying to tame me. It's not what you think. My mom nodded, stepping forward, reaching for my hand as if to soothe me. That's right, son. We just borrowed it temporarily. Just a few more months, and we'll return it to you. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. Borrowed? What the hell are you talking about? How could you sell my house without saying a word to me? My dad sighed, looking away. My mom stammered, struggling to find the right words. I stared at them, my voice colder than ever. Why? No immediate answer. I could see the flicker of guilt and unease in their eyes. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, my dad let out a deep sigh, lowered his head, and muttered, We sold your house and car to get $800,000 for Ava to invest in stocks. Silence. The entire room felt like it had frozen in place. I stood there, completely stunned, then roared in anger. Ava, again. Why is it that my whole life, everything I have gets taken away for her? My voice thundered through the room, shattering the fake silence they were trying to maintain. I'd seen this pattern before. Once again, my things were being sacrificed for their golden child. My dad winced, raising a hand as if to calm me down. Ethan, you need to relax. Ava is your sister. She's smart. She has potential. As her older brother, investing in her is the right thing to do. This time she'll make a profit. I let out a bitter laugh. How many times now? How many times have I already invested in her? My earnings, my savings? How many times have you borrowed them to help Ava get rich? And where's the result? They hesitated, no immediate answer. Ethan, this isn't Ava's fault. My mom rushed to defend her, as always. She didn't want this either. She was just unlucky. Unlucky? I clenched my fists, rage burning in my chest. No, not this time. I stared directly at them, my voice like a blade. You have exactly 1 week. If you don't return my house and car, I will go to the police. I'll take you to court, and I swear you're all going to jail this time. My dad slammed his hand on the table, his face red with fury. You ungrateful brat! Is this how you talk to your parents? I met his gaze without flinching. Sorry, you must have me confused with someone else. You only have one child, Ava. The words sliced through the air like a knife. My parents froze, their faces turning pale. They knew I was serious, knew I'd run out of patience. I turned around and walked away without another word. As I stepped out, I yanked the door shut behind me, leaving behind the 2 people I once called family. That night, I checked into a hotel, one thought running through my mind. They made the biggest mistake of their lives, thinking I was still the obedient son they used to control. In my hotel room, I headed straight for the bathroom, turned on the cold water, and let it cascade over me. The water was the only thing that could keep me grounded. I closed my eyes, feeling each drop slide down my skin, washing away the chaos in my mind. family, home, car, money, all spinning like a storm with no way out. When I stepped out of the shower, I felt a little lighter, but the emptiness still clung to me. On the table, the coffee I'd ordered upon checking in sat neatly, left by the hotel staff. I reached for it, taking a slow sip. Strangely, it didn't taste as bitter as usual today, maybe because the truth I had to swallow was far more bitter. I leaned back in my chair, staring blankly at the glass window. The city lights reflected against it, mirroring a version of me, exhausted, drained, but unwilling to break. Then the memories began to surface. Ava is my younger sister, 3 years younger than me. From the day she was born, our parents adored and spoiled her. Me? I was the older brother who had to give in, no matter what. As a kid, whenever I had a toy Ava wanted, my parents would make me hand it over. If I refused, they'd call me selfish. "You're the big brother, Ethan. You must let her have it." That phrase repeated over and over, an unspoken rule in our house. The older I got, the clearer it became. Whatever Ava wanted, Ava got. If I wanted something, I had to earn it myself. When I was 17, I realized for the first time that Ava wasn't just spoiled. She could do wrong and never face consequences. She stole $200 from me. It wasn't much to some, but to me, it was everything. Money I'd worked long hours for, saving every penny from my part-time job. When I found out, I was furious, demanded she give it back. Ava just laughed, like it was all a joke. But the most shocking part wasn't what she did. It was how our parents reacted. They didn't scold her, didn't make her apologize. My mom gently said, "Ethan, she's your sister. It's just the two of you in this world. You should let it go." My dad nodded. "That's right, son. She's your little sister. You can't be petty with her like you would with a stranger." Petty. I remember clenching my fists, feeling a deep, burning sense of injustice, but I couldn't do anything. Ava was always right to them. When I went to college, I had to juggle school and work. My parents covered my tuition, but I had to figure out everything else, food, books, rent, on my own. I worked part-time, stayed up late doing extra shifts, waited tables at a cafe, fixed computers to scrape by. Ava? She never had to lift a finger. My parents paid for her tuition, rent, food, entertainment. If she wanted a new laptop, they bought it immediately. If she wanted to travel, they covered the costs without hesitation. Whenever I asked why the difference, their answer was always the same. "You're the older brother, Ethan. You need to be independent. Ava is a girl. She needs to be taken care of." But what disgusted me most was how they worshipped her as some genius when I knew exactly how clueless she was. If she got a bad grade, Ava was sick, that's why. If she solved a first-grade math problem in 3rd grade, Ava's a prodigy. If she failed a project, she was just unlucky. They spoiled her so much that she became delusional, truly believing she was smarter than everyone else, that the world revolved around her. And now, my parents had sold my house and car, handing her $800,000 to invest in stocks, a girl who couldn't even tell the difference between revenue and profit. This wasn't the first time she'd used my money to start a business. I'd lost no less than $200,000 funding her so-called genius projects. The first time was right after she graduated college. She excitedly announced she wanted to open a unique cafe with a business model that would surpass Starbucks. I invested $50,000 in her. 1 year later, the cafe shut down. I never got an apology, just a casual remark from my parents. "Ava's still young. She needs challenges to grow." The second time, she came back with another groundbreaking idea: flipping cheap apartments for resale. She swore she'd make massive profits. That real estate was a safe bet. I gave her another $100,000. 2 years later, the project failed. When I asked where my money went, she shrugged. It's an investment, bro. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. The third time, she wanted to open a fashion store, claiming she had an eye for style and could turn her brand into the next big thing. I wanted no part of it, but my parents pressured me. My mom cried. My dad interrogated me. Do you have any idea how hard she's been working? Why are you stingy over just $60,000? If you don't help her, you don't deserve to be her brother. In the end, I lost another $60,000. Every single time, the money was borrowed from me. If I refused, my parents would do whatever it took to break me down. They'd call me selfish, accuse me of not loving my sister, say I only cared about myself. And if all else failed, my mom would pull her ultimate weapon, threatening her own life. If you don't help Ava, I have no reason to live. Through it all, Ava never once thanked me, never repaid a single cent. A knock at the door pulled me back to reality. I set my coffee down, took a deep breath to steady myself, and opened it. Noah, my lawyer and one of my closest friends, stood in the hallway. I'd called him while still in the taxi, knowing I needed someone to help unravel this mess. Noah stepped inside, shrugged off his coat, and sat down, his eyes holding a mix of curiosity and concern. "You all right?" he asked, though he probably already knew the answer. I leaned back, closed my eyes briefly, and told him everything. From my 6-month assignment in Canada to coming home and discovering my parents had sold my house and car without my knowledge. I didn't trust anyone else, so I asked them to look after my house. Now I come back to find out they sold it 5 months ago. Noah didn't speak right away. He studied me with the sharp gaze of a lawyer, then leaned back, crossing his arms. "If they sold your house, this isn't as simple as it looks," he said. I frowned. "What do you mean?" He tapped his fingers lightly against the chair, speaking slowly. "There could be fraud involved. No one can legally sell a property under someone else's name without their consent, unless—" I gritted my teeth, an uneasy feeling growing in my chest. "Unless what?" Noah sighed. "Unless they forged documents. A power of attorney maybe, or a gift deed, something with your signature on it." I froze. "You're saying they forged my signature?" Noah shrugged, his eyes sharp. "Not necessarily. There are plenty of legal loopholes the average person would miss. They could have faked a power of attorney document, making it look like you authorized them to sell the house and car. Or it could have been a gift deed, something with your signature on it." I narrowed my eyes, trying to recall. Had I signed anything in the past 6 months without reading it carefully? Noah suddenly chuckled, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Or maybe you were drunk and signed something without knowing. You'd be surprised how often that happens." I scowled, not finding the joke funny, but deep down, I knew he had a point. If my parents had forged documents or manipulated my signature, I wasn't going to let this slide. I tried to recall, digging through my memories, searching for any moment I might have signed something related to my assets. Then it hit me. I shouted, my voice so loud Noah flinched. "What? You remember something?" he asked, eyes wide. I clenched my fists as the memory resurfaced, crystal clear, like it happened yesterday. The day I left for the airport, my parents and Ava came to see me off. They handed me a stack of documents before I walked into the departure area. "Ethan, sign these real quick," my mom said, her voice casual, like it was routine. I frowned. "What is this?" "Just a power of attorney," she replied smoothly. "You'll be gone for 6 months, so if any repairs are needed at the house, we can handle them. Also, if the police or government needs to verify anything about the property while you're away, we can take care of it." I trusted them. I remember asking why so many pages. My dad chuckled, patting my shoulder like I'd asked something silly. Just to be safe, son. Some repairs require both original and duplicate copies for submission. At the time, part of me believed them. The other part was in a rush. My flight was about to board. I didn't have time to sit there reading every word. I skimmed the first few lines, saw the words power of attorney, and signed them all. I didn't check. I didn't think they'd betray me. Now I was paying the price for my stupidity. Noah stared at me for a long moment, then sighed, his grip tightening around his coffee cup like he wanted to crush it. You just handed them a golden ticket to ruin you. Noah stood, adjusting his coat, his eyes calculating and sharp. This is complicated, he said, his voice low but steady, no trace of panic. But don't worry, I've got this. There's something wrong with the paperwork. I'll go through everything and check the documents. Meet me tomorrow afternoon. I'll have news for you. I nodded, saying nothing. I trusted Noah. If anyone could expose this scam, it was him. He walked to the door, then turned back one last time, his expression serious. Stay calm, Ethan. The angrier you get, the more they'll think you'll give up. I wasn't sure I could do that. The door clicked shut, and the room fell into an eerie silence. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Why would they do this to me? What had I done to deserve this? They didn't just take my money, they took my trust. My parents, people who were supposed to protect me. Ava, the sister who was supposed to respect me. I clenched my phone, my fingers trembling with rage. I wanted to curse her out, scream at her, hear her admit her shamelessness, and see how she'd justify her actions. I called Ava. The phone rang. No answer. I called again. Same result. She knew I was back, knew everything, and was hiding from me. 2 weeks later, my life slowly started to regain some order. I couldn't stay in a hotel forever, so I spent time searching for a new apartment. Even though everything wasn't over yet, I knew I had to keep moving forward. That day, I was standing in a high-rise apartment overlooking Central Park, listening to the real estate agent explain the interior features, when my phone started ringing again and again, non-stop. I ignored it, but the ringing didn't stop. Annoyed, I finally pulled my phone out of my pocket. My dad was calling. I declined. Seconds later, my mom called. Declined. Not even a minute passed before Ava's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it, my heart cold and steady. I didn't need to guess why they were calling. They'd received the lawsuit. They were panicking, terrified of the consequences about to crash down on them. I had no reason to answer. Excuses, begging, maybe even blaming me. Whatever they had to say, I didn't care anymore. Without hesitation, I blocked all their numbers. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, turned to the agent, and gave a small nod. Go on, I said. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't my parents or Ava. It was Uncle Ben, my dad's older brother, who'd always stayed neutral in family matters. We weren't close, but he wasn't the type to take sides unthinkingly. If he was calling today, it was probably as a mediator. I picked up, and his voice came through immediately. Ethan, I know you're angry, but can't you give your parents a way out? No matter what, they're still your family, your parents. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and kept calm before responding. Uncle Ben, if Grandpa had sold your house, sold your car, and given all the money to my dad, what would you have done? He hesitated for a few seconds. Why are you asking me that? I smirked, hearing the uncertainty in his voice. Because that's exactly what my parents did to me. A long silence stretched between us. I could almost picture the stunned look on his face as he realized things weren't how he'd been told. Finally, he spoke again, his voice laced with doubt. "No way. Your parents told me they only borrowed some money from you and hadn't had the chance to pay it back yet. They said you overreacted and sued them out of anger. That's what they told the whole family." I let out a humorless laugh. "Is that so? Well, when the trial date comes, I'll invite you and the entire family to witness the truth for yourselves." I didn't wait for his response. I ended the call. The truth would come out soon enough. I had nothing left to explain. After complete silence, we finally met again 2 months later in court. My parents sat at the defendant's table, Ava beside them, clutching her handbag tightly. I saw my mom glancing around nervously, as if searching for support from someone. Then they froze, their eyes widening in shock as they noticed just how many relatives had shown up to witness the trial. I saw my dad's brows knit together, his face darkening when he realized several family members were staring at him and my mom suspiciously. The lie, the one where they claimed they'd just borrowed money but hadn't repaid it yet, was falling apart. They knew the truth now. A few days before the trial, I'd texted Uncle Ben, asking him to spread the word and invite everyone. I wanted them to see it with their own eyes, to witness how the people who claimed to love me had betrayed me. As I entered the courtroom, all three of them, my parents and Ava, turned their eyes toward me. My dad glared, my mom went pale, and Ava just sat there, staring with an unreadable expression. No one said a word, but in their eyes, I could see the only thought running through their minds. They never imagined I'd go through with this. At exactly 8 in the morning, the trial began. The atmosphere in the courtroom was heavy, tension wrapping around everyone like a thick fog. My parents' lawyer stood up, adjusted his tie, and spoke. "Your Honor, my clients have done nothing wrong. The defendants simply acted within the legal authority granted to them. The plaintiff, Ethan, voluntarily signed a power of attorney, giving my clients full control over the house and the car." He paused, glancing at me with confidence, as if this case was already won before it even began. "We have indisputable evidence. The documents are fully legitimate, containing the plaintiff's signature and notarized on October 23, 2021. As soon as he finished speaking, I could feel my parents' and Ava's eyes drilling into me. The eyes of people who believed they'd already won. My mom lifted her chin slightly, a faint smug smile creeping onto her lips. Ava crossed her arms, leaning back in her chair, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. My dad simply raised an eyebrow, but the way he looked at me, calm, arrogant, assured, told me everything I needed to know. They truly believed they had me cornered. I heard whispers ripple through the audience behind me. If he signed a power of attorney, what's the point of this lawsuit? Parents wouldn't deceive their child, would they? This is too much. I mean, it's his own family. I smirked slightly, but deep inside, I wasn't worried at all. As soon as the judge nodded, signaling for Noah, my lawyer, to present our case, he stood up calmly, adjusted his suit, and picked up a file. His sharp gaze swept across the courtroom. "Your Honor," Noah began, his voice steady and firm, "on October 23, 2021, when the defendants claim my client signed a power of attorney, my client was not in the United States. He was in Canada on a 6-month business assignment." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. "Therefore, the notarized power of attorney is invalid. The notary engaged in fraudulent conduct, which is a criminal offense." The courtroom erupted in whispers. I saw the confidence drain from my parents' faces. My mom turned to Ava as if silently demanding an explanation. My dad frowned, trying to keep his composure. Ava's face turned pale. She clutched her purse tightly, panic creeping into her eyes. And then the courtroom doors swung open. 2 police officers entered, escorting a man in a gray suit, his hands cuffed behind his back, the notary. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. Noah continued, unfazed. Your Honor, authorities launched an investigation after my client filed his lawsuit. They confirmed that this notary accepted a $20,000 bribe from my client's parents to falsify the notarized documents. Gasps filled the room. My dad turned pale, looking as if he wanted to say something, but the judge raised a hand for silence. I glanced at my parents again. Gone was their earlier arrogance. Now there was only shock, fear. The judge turned to the notary, his tone stern. Do you have anything to say? The man trembled, then let out a sigh and nodded. Yes, I'll tell everything. All eyes locked on him. It's true. I accepted $20,000 from the plaintiff's parents to notarize the documents while he was out of the country. But I wasn't completely reckless. I had suspicions, so I called to verify. Then why did you still sign off on the papers? The judge pressed. Because when I called the plaintiff's number, he confirmed he was in Canada. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. My parents were frozen in place. Noah turned to me, waiting for my response. I frowned, thinking back, and then it hit me. I had received a call from a notary's office, but at the time, I assumed it was about company documents, not my house. I had told them I was in Canada. For the notary, that confirmation was enough. I let out a bitter laugh. My parents had taken advantage of this misunderstanding and turned it into the perfect crime. The tension in the courtroom was razor sharp when the notary admitted his guilt. I heard the screech of a chair being shoved back. You bastard! I paid you $20,000, and now you're turning on me, my dad roared, his face flushed red with rage. The judge slammed his gavel down. Order in the court! If you cause another disruption, I will have you removed. Silence fell over the room. The judge turned to my parents' lawyer. Counsel for the defense, do you have anything to say? The man stood motionless for a long moment, then let out a heavy sigh and shook his head. He knew they had lost. There was no argument or justification that could salvage this disaster. 5 minutes later, the judge looked down at the files and firmly delivered the verdict. My parents were found guilty of financial fraud and document forgery. They had deliberately falsified the power of attorney and used it to sell my assets without my legal consent. Their punishment, 10 years in prison without parole. Additionally, they were ordered to pay me $1,200,000, including $800,000 in stolen funds and $400,000 in penalties and accumulated interest. If they failed to repay the amount, the court would seize their assets to cover the debt. Ava, though not directly involved in the forgery, was aware of the crime and did nothing to report it. She was convicted as an accomplice to financial fraud and sentenced to 3 years of probation with a $100,000 fine. If she reoffended during her probation period, she would be sent to prison immediately. As for the notary who accepted the bribe and fraudulently notarized the documents, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. His notary license was permanently revoked, and he was fined $250,000 for notarial fraud and bribery. After reading the verdict, the judge placed the gavel down and declared that the sentencing would take effect immediately. The officers stepped forward, cuffing my parents and the notary, preparing to escort them out of the courtroom. My parents stood frozen in shock. Ava's face turned deathly pale. The notary hung his head in defeat. As they were led past me, my mom turned, her eyes blazing with hatred. Are you happy now, you bastard? You've destroyed this family. My dad said nothing, but the way he looked at me, full of resentment and bitterness, told me that in their eyes, I was the villain. I didn't flinch. I met my mom's glare, my voice calm and unwavering. No, you and your precious golden child did that yourselves. You had a choice. You could have lived the rest of your lives comfortably, growing old with both your children by your side. But you didn't choose that. You chose greed, and this is the price you pay." She gritted her teeth, but had nothing left to say. The officers pulled them away. My dad turned his face away, but I saw his fists clench tightly, a silent sign of his defeat. In the distance, whispers spread through the courtroom. Some relatives murmured to one another, but I could already guess what they were saying. "That boy is ruthless. No matter what, they're still his parents. Who sends their parents to jail? Where is his filial piety?" I didn't react. Uncle Ben stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder, his voice low. "I'm sorry, Ethan, but I think you did the right thing." I nodded, saying nothing. I knew not everyone in the family felt the same. Many of them cursed me, calling me an ungrateful son, a heartless person. They said my parents were old and that I should have forgiven them. But what does forgiveness mean when they were never sorry to begin with? And then 3 years passed. 3 years without a single call, not a single message from anyone in my family. 3 years of living my own life. Yet those words of condemnation still echoed in my mind. I stood up for myself. I fought for justice, but the price I paid was losing my entire family. So, what do you think? Was it worth it? Dear viewers, thank you for being here. Stay tuned to the channel for tons of exciting videos. Every day, we upload fresh stories packed with thrills and surprises. Don't miss out. Comment, share, subscribe, and hit that like button.